The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Krista Rose from Bitcoin Uncensored, Gabriel D. Vine from Future Rant.
Great to be back, everyone. Hello, posterity. I hope that you enjoy our talk of these incredible 2020s.
Tone Vase from Liberty Life Trail.
Hey everyone, glad to be out of the, the Scam Fest conferences. Holy shit.
Jeffrey Jones from the Bitcoin News Show.
Well, since Chris didn't get to say it, hello, party people.
Thanks for that. I thought I was going through the list sequentially. I didn't know it was my turn to talk. You said it. That's enough.
And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue 1. Pushing the button and pushing it again. Issue 1, Bitcoin goes up and then down. The price of Bitcoin broke all previous records and skyrocketed to around $2,800 until plunging back to $2,200. Krista Rose, what is the meaning behind Bitcoin's rapid price movement?
Yeah, I wrote an article about this for Breitbart. It was actually my first article in Breitbart. I was really happy to talk about this subject because we've all been watching this and trying to figure it out. For me, it boils down to a couple of very simple things. Certainly the closure of Asian exchanges, or at least the restrictions on Asian exchanges, caused a lot of the orders from Asia to go through Japan, where I think that ICO fever is starting to really take flight, from what I hear from Koji, known as Coin and Peace on Twitter. He's been writing up this phenomenon. I met him in person. He's a wonderful person. He's been talking about that. I think, too, that in general, the whole atmosphere of the United States has been more pumpy as a result of this ICOs, causing a lot of people to do effectively day trading now in a market that they, I guess, felt that they couldn't day trade in prior. I don't know why the ICOs have attracted people, but I think that a lot of the Fred Wilson and Tim Draper personalities that are promising effectively Silicon Valley riches to this new generation of millennials, that's kind of starting a lot of this fervor in the markets. But one last reason, I'm going to throw this out there, guys. You probably haven't considered this too much. It's a small part, but it's not being talked about. The online gambling markets are, in fact, adopting Bitcoin at significantly higher levels than they ever have. And I'm very curious to see how football season impacts that going forward, or basketball. I don't know if we can see any mark in the uptake and in the usage. But I've been tracking that story around in my own time recently, and there's a lot of meat there. So hopefully I can report on some of that as those investigations develop. But that's the trifecta, really.
I think that's the first time we've had a sports theme theory on this show. Has to do with the basketball playoffs, LeBron and the Warriors, all kinds of great stuff. Let's go to Gabriel D. Vine.
All right. Great to be back. Like I said, you know, it was time. That the bull market had matured on a technical level. Bitcoin's been in this bull market for already a long time. We've all been watching Bitcoin quintuple over the last 18 months, whatever, 20 months. And, you know, I was talking about it went, quote, only 15, 20% a month, which is huge returns, or whatever it was, 10% a month. You know, as soon as it goes hyperbolic or parabolic, then, of course, there's tons of searches on Google. There's tons of media coverage, and you know, attention begets attention. Edward did a great job of covering numerous factors on his recent video, Renegade Investor UK on YouTube. I don't remember his exact URL, but you can find him that way. And he did a really good job in analyzing some of the factors there. Like Chris mentioned, in Asia, they have continued to pick up of momentum, especially Korea, which was leading the rally. So I think you could say that a lot of that tension, which is a highly South Korea technological culture, it's got the highest bandwidth in the world, chock full of video game heads. And of course, Japan, which has the volume on the exchanges that don't charge any transaction fees. So there's a lot of wash trading coming out of Japan, which can be bullish for the price. It's certainly a lot of speculation going on in Japan, which is not a surprise considering the Keynesian destruction of that their economy has 27 years. They've been essentially in a depression. Jobs. I mean, it's not a good situation for the Japanese economy, and they see this, rightly so, as an escape hatch. Institutional money. People seem to be indicating that Wall Street liquidity has finally begun washing in a bit. So that's an additional source of fiat to change the exchange rate in the other direction.
I've also heard more than Wall Street. Gabriel, what do you think about the theory that the Japanese government, or perhaps even the Chinese government, have started institutional buys of Bitcoin?
If so, it's at such an incredibly minute level that it's irrelevant at this point. They could be hedging their bets a little bit. Certainly nobody has made an official announcement to that. I've been paying pretty close attention. The closest we've gotten on an official level is the Central Bank of Barbados openly got it 2 years ago, 3 years ago, maybe 2.5. But they are buying, it's not very much. I mean, they've got on their balance sheets. They're completely dislocating and destroying markets around the world because every other asset that's digitally traded on every exchange, which of course they all run on computers, but every other asset besides crypto monies can be totally manipulated on both sides of the ledger. You know, you can create digital assets out of thin air. You can do fractional reserve smart, DTCC does. You can print up as much fiat as you want and just shove it into the, into your Postgre, data. They're completely fictional markets. Crypto are the first honest digital markets that the world has ever seen. Crypto to fiat, you still have to kind of get it in to an exchange, and some exchanges are probably doing some fractional reserve shenanigans, like I've been hearing some rumors about Coinbase. They're not supposed to be, and because there are now enough exchanges worldwide, we're probably operating in a relatively true market for crypto assets, in the sense that, yes, there's tons of insider trading, yes, there's tons of market manipulation. You can't outright or destroy these digital assets. You have to actually deliver them cryptographically, and that's totally new. And that's reasons why gold and silver, which are perfectly good hedges against world economic collapse, the prices aren't changing because the markets are completely rigged, in my opinion. This is not something I have direct proof for, but it would make sense. And then a lot of other cryptos are shooting up. So, and that brings me to another point, which is just market dislocations right now. The world is rife with flash crashes. A lot of these experiments of, plunge protection, go higher. China, is manipulating its currency. They just changed their paradigm for pricing the yuan today again. So it's causing a lot of uncertainty. Traders are fleeing to these assets because they're seen as a hedge against more and more by mainstream traders. They're seen as a hedge against economic collapse. They're sort of the middle ground between holding precious metals physically, which is like a hedge against, complete collapse, electrical grid, or internet shutdowns. Crypto is kind of the middle ground where it's like, okay, it's traditional market, traditional financial system collapse, but still functioning electrical and internet systems. So yeah, I think
the returns have been fantastic. 150, 200%. It just keeps going up. Let's go to Tone Vase. Your thoughts on the recent price rise? Tone, got to push that mute button. This is like a live show. All right, Tone's computer seems to have crashed or died. Let's go to Jeffrey Jones.
Oh, Tone. Oh, you crack us all up. Are you back, Tone? Actually, I think Tone's back. No? Okay. All right, Tone. So first of all, everybody, thanks so much for joining us. We have Gabriel Divine back. That's just awesome. Really, really happy to see Gabriel back. And we got Christy Rose on the show. So everybody, come on, hit the subscribe button right now. So this show is going awesome. I just want to thank you guys for joining. So this price, it's got everybody going kind of crazy. This breakout has been years in the making. This was actually this was really supposed to happen, before the Dow. We were supposed to break out much earlier in the year than this, but we had things like the Dow, we had things like, Bitfinex hack that really just threw this huge batch of cold water on all of our rallies, like you saw, like it tried to go up, tried to go up, nope. But finally, at the third time, there was nothing really that could stop it. So that's really exciting. And, people don't realize, like, there's $14 trillion in people's bank accounts across the U.S. I mean, there's so much money in bank accounts that can actually exit. And because it's so easy to get into, I mean, you just go to a website, a lot more of this money is going to start flowing through. It doesn't have to actually be the institutional money just yet. There's a lot of money trapped in bank accounts and things like that people would very much like to get rid of. So
now, but Jeff, what if there's a problem with that website? I've heard from many people that Coinbase.com went down when they were trying to buy and they were FOMOing out bad. Why is this happening? Didn't they have enough time to prepare for such an onslaught? Didn't we talk about this all the time?
No.
Bitcoin's going to go up like this and everybody's going to want in. And Coinbase, you should get some extra servers and have that AWS thing. You just buy more servers, right? What is the problem here, Jeff?
So really, I think that Bitcoin is taking everybody by surprise. I mean, every single price move seems to come sooner than everybody expects. Bitcoin seems to be moving faster than anybody can predict. And every time I hear people from all the time, like, no, this was actually, we're supposed to be here at this time. We're supposed to be here. They're because of the amount of craziness that's been going on with things like the block size. And now, it seems to be always something that's dragging people's attention away from what should actually be on the main chain of the planet, which is Bitcoin, right? So there's a lot of stuff like that. And, I'm still expecting some corrections as we get closer to the user activated soft fork. I am expecting even more probably of a correction than we have right now. But I mean, we could go up to, between now and then, we could go up to 5,000 and then correct back down to 2,500. So really, there's nobody can call the top. Nobody has any idea how high it's really going to go. A lot of the guesses are between 3,000 and 5,000, but still, we don't actually know. This is an unparalleled, unprecedented situation that we have. And don't forget, I mean, the world is kind of falling apart. We have multi-100-year bond lows. We have negative interest rates in every single country. We have, Brexit, and you name it. I mean, there's things happening in the world right now that are scaring the crap out of people. There is a ton of uncertainty, and Bitcoin seems to be becoming more and more of the safe haven that we can trust, that we can say, look, if I put my money in here, odds are not only will I have it in a couple of years that nobody can take, but guess what? It's probably going to be appreciated. This deflationary style asset. We've just never seen any or had anything like this before, and people are just loving it and eating it up. So everything is growing, right? The community is growing. The people are growing. The scams are growing. Everybody's growing. The Google search for buy Bitcoin is growing. And of course, on top of all of that, we have the freaking scam coin conferences, just bringing in all this new people, all this new money to these things, saying like, oh man, I don't need Bitcoin. Like Tone was saying, people, I just need Ethereum. I mean, it's absolute madness, when Bitcoin's been around this long, and then we have all this fanatic craziness over these things that only been around a couple of years. So lots, and of course, Japan and Korea, I mean, of course, that's going to be a contributing factor, as the previous people have said. But yeah, this is we are in a bull run, and this is not going to go down anytime soon. The world is discovering Bitcoin.
So now we've got global collapse coming in both of my ears. Just want to remind everyone to push that like button and to share. We have 318 live viewers. Thanks so much to everybody, and we look forward to your comments in the chat. We're now going to go to someone who can tell us where the top is and can tell us if it's going up or down. Tone Vase, are you with us? Can we hear you? Still muted. He's got a chart. He looks all ready.
Yeah, sorry guys. I got look, it's Friday night here by me, and it's just like I got my own craziness going on. So no, I have the chart, and I don't understand why people are going so crazy over this drop in price. We've fallen to Monday's price. Like, So no one told you to buy at 2,700. When we were telling you to buy in 2014, 15, 16, that's when you should have bought, right? And this is the time you hold. Either you hold through it or you just cash out. And so there it is. Now, I think that it's fallen far enough for the time being. But to be honest, in this current environment, no one knows. I know everyone is like reaching out to me to tell them where Bitcoin price is going. Guys, I don't know. I'm pretty good at analyzing Bitcoin in a kind of, stable environment. But right now, I mean, we got way out of control, and we're pulling back a little bit. And if I glance at the daily chart, I mean, this is nothing. This is literally nothing. We're falling back. We're still above my daily channel, which I initially thought it wasn't even going to break. Like, I'm perfectly okay with this, and I don't see any issues with the price. Now, I understand why the price skyrocketed. It makes sense for Bitcoin price to go up, but look, there's huge uncertainty in Bitcoin scaling, and besides that, the altcoins are just pumping like crazy. It is insane. I know we're going to get to them and further on in the show, so I'm not even going to mention it. So I'm just going to say that you can wake up on Monday and we can be back at all-time highs. I mean, no one knows what's going on right now. It's just everybody's panicking. Everyone is just like day trading.
And to me, 2250 or wherever we're at today still seems like an all-time high. Anything over 1200 seems like ridiculous high. My brother reminded me the other day, we once went to a Bitcoin broke 250 party. That's $250. So let's move on to the exit question. The price of Bitcoin next week, above or below 2,800? Chris DeRose.
I hate this question because I don't have that hidden knowledge. I'm going to say below 2,800 only because that's the current price is below 2,800.
Sticking with the current price, Gabriel D. Vine.
I'm going to say below. Cliff High has been calling 2,300 as a sticking point, so I think we're going to be hanging out here. He also called the 500 drop, which was extremely prescient. So I'm going to say we're going to be kicking it around 2,300-ish for at least a week.
Tone Vase.
I'm gonna say above 2,000. I have no idea. I doubt would be above 2,800. I'll say we'll be somewhere in between 2,000 and 2,800, which I know is a wide range, but hey, I don't think we're gonna make it back above it this soon. It's possible, but I doubt it.
Jeffrey Jones.
Yeah, it's pretty much everybody said. I mean, we have to correct for a while here. We went kind of parabolic, so it's really nice to finally catch a refresher and correct a little bit. So it's probably going to be around this time, around the price that is now. We're going to go down. We're going to go a little sideways, something like that. But yeah, as the rest is everybody else, I don't think we'll be back up to 3K anytime soon. It could be definitely by the end of the year, but we have things coming up like the user-activated soft fork and stuff and other things that are going to probably correct the price a bit. So it's going to stay around here for a while.
Bitcoin goes above 3,000. The price knows no bounds. It cannot stop. The hype is infinite. Issue 2, Consensus Conference. The Consensus Conference, put on by CoinDesk, owned by Barry Silbert's digital currency group, took place this week in New York City. The conference was different than previous conferences, according to Lightning Network developer Joseph Poon, who said that he only recognized like 10 people and that there was no nerd table. Amidst further investment into cryptocurrency by major players in finance, including JP Morgan, investing into Zcash. Tone Vase, you were at the conference. Is Bitcoin no longer the domain of nerds? Has big finance taken over?
So I think that Joseph Poon's comment was about the token summit the day after the 3-day consensus conference. Because at the consensus conference, he would have recognized a lot of people. The token summit was just, taking the another level. Now, hey, can we just like maybe a show of hands so you don't have to unmute? How many of you like watch the live stream videos of the speakers that are here on the panels? Jeffrey, you did. Chris, no? No, and yeah, okay. So I didn't watch any of the panels. I actually did not make it to like a single session. The only one I made it into was like when Vinny Lingham spoke during lunch, and I didn't make anything else. I was just in the hallways with all of the people there, and it was like no one cares about Bitcoin. It's completely irrelevant to all of them. Everyone is creating their ICO. And it was there, and it was in the Token Summit. And I think we talked about it in our little green room right before the show. It's like, I know why I got into Bitcoin. I got into Bitcoin because I liked it as, you know, for my libertarian views, which I kind of no longer have. But it's maybe I'm stealing it from Jeffrey, but like we got into this because we hated that the government was printing money. And now everyone is printing their own security, and they're all printing their own money. And they all think this is okay. So Jeffrey, if I'm stealing your line, please correct me because I don't even know anymore. Like I'm so tired.
Yeah, that tweet got like 180 likes.
Was that your tweet? I didn't even see it.
Crazy
tweet.
people.
I mean, it's perfect. A tweet that's just perfect. I mean, it's absolutely insane. And now, like, I look like the crazy one. I look like the voice of reason trying to explain to them that this is freaking insane. And everyone around us is getting rich. I know everyone that does podcasts on this channel, we're all like, man, all we had to do was put $1,000 into Ethereum and not, you know, calling it a scam from day one. And we would all be rich today. And look at us now. Meanwhile,
and remember what Stephen Colbert said about global warming. When Al Gore's book or movie and book, The Inconvenient Truth, made money, he said that made global warming real. We're now in the same situation where Ethereum, where if it's over $200, if it's over $100, it must be real. The price says it's real.
But I don't know. It was just like no one there like even cares to listen to reason. Like I don't even know why I go to these places anymore. It was it was a very frustrating experience. I was there through all the conferences. It was basically I had like little tables of sanity, right? So I would walk around. I would talk to all these people, and then I would walk into the Blockstream. Blockstream had their own little side room for their meetings and stuff. I'd walk in there. No one would ever be in there besides Adam Back and Andrew Polstra. And Matt Carrillo would be coming in and out. And like no one even knows who these people are. Like nobody cares. Or I would walk over to the Uno coin table, sit down, talk to Sonny Ray. I mean, there was nobody else there for me to talk to. I found Tour de Meester on the last. Like my highlights at the conference are different than others. My highlights at the conference was like meeting Whale Panda in person, you know, because he's always been very fairly anonymous, you know, like Panda meeting Samson Mao for the first time, and you know, having a little chat with Adam Back, having a chat with Sonny Ray of Udo Coin, hanging out with Tour de Meester for like, you know, for a cup of coffee, things like that. Like those were my highlights. Like, and we're all like looking at each other going, are we the crazy ones? And these were the people I always respected for their knowledge of the industry. And like, we're sitting there going like, is it possible we're all wrong? We all think Ethereum is just, you know, complete and utter nonsense that is not sustainable technologically or economically. But hey, we'll see where it goes. It's so disappointing that is the biggest venue in all of crypto right now.
Well, but let's rewind it a second. Let's go back to what we thought would happen. We always knew that big business was going to come in. In many ways, we announced it. We called for it. We called ourselves the Trojan horse. We want them to come and take Bitcoin in so that Bitcoin gets bigger and they realize they can't control it. But isn't that happening now with Ethereum and in a smaller degree with Litecoin? They have now an official Bitcoin. They've got a creator. They've got a place to go if they want a hard fork. They have choices. They have IBM and Ethereum and Microsoft. Isn't this what it was going to be like, Tone? They're co-opting Bitcoin, right?
I mean, I guess, but if that's what they want, I mean, I don't want to compare Litecoin to Ethereum. I mean, those are very, very different things. But nobody wants Litecoin either. No one there talked about Litecoin. No one there cares about Litecoin. Honestly, no one even cares that much about Ethereum. It's all about the next ICO. It's what they can pump. The biggest sponsor and the one making the most noise at that entire conference was EOS, and that's Dan Larimer's scam number 3. That one had the after parties. That one was the biggest. That was the biggest draw for the next big pump as an ICO. So I don't know. I don't know. Like Litecoin wasn't even mentioned. I don't know what to say anymore. Like I obviously I've been totally wrong about which way this bubble is gonna go, and being a Bitcoiner these days is like, silly. It's like, you only made 100% this year on the price of Bitcoin going up. This is insane. This is insane. And I think Bitcoin got way out of control. I didn't want to see it go up this high this fast. I don't even have enough Bitcoin to be happy about this.
It feels like we're the old Unix geeks in the server room with our mainframes, and we're loving our Unix and everything, and everyone's coming out with these little desktops and laptops and whirring around so much faster than the rest of us. We're old timers now, Tone. We're antiques. Let's go to Jeffrey Jones.
Right, I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there.
All right, let's go to Jeffrey Jones. Your thoughts on the conference and the revenge of the suits?
Yeah, it's really what's happening is it's freaking pure insanity. I think this is probably echoing the .com boom, but as some people have said, I mean, we're not even there yet. Like, we still have a whole huge runway to go before we even get close to the .com boom. But man, this is definitely must have been something close to what it was like. I mean, I didn't go to this conference, because I don't go to a lot of conferences anyway, but this one, I mean, I knew it was going to be private blockchain this, private blockchain that, token this, token that. This, it's pretty crazy with these suits all coming in. And, people like myself and Tone, and maybe even a bunch of people on the WCN and even Chris, we all look like the crazy people now. We've been telling people for so long that Ethereum is not sustainable, that Ripple is crap, that these freaking coins that they're just perpetual motion machines, right? They're people creating tokens out of nothing, printing money, and yet it's insanely taking off. I did tweet out that tweet that said, I got into Bitcoin to stop people from printing money, but that's what all anybody wants to do these days. People have completely forgotten, because the people that, that I say have forgotten, those are the people that never really knew. Those are the people that are just coming in, they're seeing dollar signs, with like the Ethereum Alliance, bringing in all of this dumb money, all of these people in suits, all these things, thinking that they're going to get rich with promises of, look at Bitcoin. Everybody says, look at Bitcoin. That's the promise. That's what we can have. We can have Bitcoin. We can recreate Bitcoin. And it's like, no, people, no. Bitcoin cannot be recreated by any type of company or single entity. It is not. It organically was created. It was organically grew up in an ecosystem without shit coins and scam coins and stuff. It's a completely different thing. Bitcoin was created because there was a need for something. Not created to get money. And all of these coins now, they literally have all these baked in schemes, right? All these baked in schemes, got to support the developers, 15% over every year, all these things built in. No. Whatever happened to open source? Well, I'm getting a little bit off a tangent, but these kids, they're needing 1,000x returns, right? They're like, I'm not happy unless I get 1,000x. I mean, what the hell? Someone tell me where the next 1,000x is, because this is ridiculous. It seems that the blockchain narrative now has been completely replaced with tokens. This is the narrative now, tokens. Everybody's got to print a token. Everybody can make a ton of money. Just print your token. And, these people that we respect, like Tone and I, like Vinny, these people that we respect now are all launching a freaking token. Everybody the creator of JavaScript and is launching a token. Okay. Everybody is freaking launching a token, and it's starting to get insane. So my last words is pure insanity.
Yeah. Hey Jeffrey. Hey Jeffrey. Here's another one on this. Just because you said they all want to know where the next 1000x return is because that's their minimum. They're creating their own 1000x returns with coordinated pump and dumps, and then they're mad at Wall Street for manipulating the markets and that they're evil.
The irony is too thick to cut, people. It's just ridiculous.
Jeffrey Jones getting a little religious there. In the beginning, Bitcoin was holy and pure. There were no shit coins. But of course, I was there in the beginning, and I'd like to thank our 408 live viewers for joining us as well. Give us a like and a share. And I remember the beginning. I remember Let's Talk Bitcoin, creating Let's Talk Bitcoin coin. And I remember Counterparty. And let's go back to Chris DeRose, who maybe saw all this coming. Counterparty, the first coming of Ethereum. Make your own stocks, rare pepes. Krista Rose, what do you think about the consensus conference and the end of nerds?
I'd love to say that I saw this coming, but I did not. I have made a number of mistakes in my life. One of which is repeatedly a mistake is overestimating the wisdom of crowds. It seems like the madness knows no bounds, and we are seeing that here for sure. You know, I'm editing up right now a video. It's a post-conference review with Ricardo, Fluffy Pony of Monero. And he said a bunch of great stuff in there, and I'm really looking forward to releasing it. It should be out tomorrow. So, but one of the things that really stuck with me is he said that this was kind of what he would have expected to see at an Amway conference or like an MLM conference. That what he could foresee happening at the rate things are going is that the word blockchain kind of gets associated with maybe that friend that you have who's always pitching some like high yield investment product scheme, and that seems to be what's going on. And I think he's right. You know, what's hilarious to me about all of this is that we were just outright like chastised for what we believed in Bitcoin in the early years amongst every form of suit and professional imaginable. We were stupid, we were weirdos, we were this, we were that. But I never saw this level of stupidity coming out of us. We at least had like some pretense of an economic function. There was some coherent goal that we shared. There was at least like we may have moved on from libertarianism in a lot of cases, but like there was this sort of greater purpose to things, and there's none of that here. People call me a nihilist, and maybe I am, but this seems like weirdly like self-indulgent. You know, it's not even maybe it's nihilism, but it's sort of like a hedonism of sorts that's just like completely unbounded as this sort of pursuit of greed, and that's it. So I'd like to think that we had some degree of higher ground when we were looking into this, and maybe I'm kidding myself, but you know, I think at some level of like the summer of love in like the 70s, and you have like these sort of like movements where the early adopters get in, it becomes interesting for any number of reasons. And then as the crowds appear, the meaning is completely lost, it degenerates, and the movement's over. And I don't know if that's what's going on here, but it certainly has a lot of those makings. So it'll see how history tells things. But you know, I talk with like Elaine Ormsby about the early days of Silk Road and the mystery and the weirdness and the sense of being part of something great, and a lot of that is gone for me now, and maybe these people are just going to have that, but for me, you know, I don't know what anybody really stands for. Like this word token to me is inane. We've had tokens forever. We've had tokens in online games. We've had tokens in the form of gift certificates on paper. We've had tokens at arcade games when I was a kid. You put a token in. It's so uninteresting. The only reason that they're amassed here, the only technological innovation, if you want to call it that, is that there's a power vacuum at the SEC, whereby the SEC has turned a blind eye to this security pump and dump boiler room 2.0 system that has existed now. And that's what's new. That's all that's new. There's nothing else. There's nothing that's being done requires blockchain. Nothing that's being done is anything untested. It's just vanilla pump and dump securities scams, which I think are fine, you know, but it's not, for me, that's not terribly interesting. There's no research being done. None of these projects will be interesting. In fact, I'm even hesitant to use the word bubble at this point, because at least bubbles have like a veneer around it of substance that kind of keeps the gas intact. This is just gas. Ain't nothing else happening. People want to tell me, I think on the Simon Dixon interview, that we're having a 90% correction. I don't think so. I think it's going to be 100%, because there's nothing at all that I've seen that is a fact-checked, peer-reviewed appeal to science or restriction of claim in any capacity. It's, you know, the best way to understand this is, if for anybody who hasn't done this, you really should look into the Albanian Ponzi crisis of, I think it was 97. The country had a civil war over the unchecked securities law that caused Ponzi after Ponzi to grow greater and greater. What happens as a result of a lack of regulation is that claimants end up competing on their feature list and not at any sort of grounding, any fundamental value, any appeal to reason, because the nature of investment is such that an investor can't gain access to specialization. That's what he's investing in, theoretically, is someone with specialization. If that investor had the specialization, he wouldn't be investing. He would be leading an investment. So like that is the function that the SEC provides when it's providing it well. And you can see it take out countries in the past as a result of this unbounded optimism. And we're seeing that here. And for me, I don't know. I didn't want to go to the event, and for a number of reasons. Because if I went to one of these conferences, I'm not going to be censored. I'm Bitcoin uncensored. So I will either get kicked out no time, which kind of nullifies the value proposition, or I have to sit there and look around at these idiots and I don't know how to keep my mouth shut. That's basically the bottom line. I don't know how to keep my mouth shut. Pass it on to the next guy.
Well, I agree with you about the madness. I don't think it's over. I'm afraid we're at an early point and it's still gathering, and just based upon numbers. I always felt before we were doing a lot of Bitcoin shows, we were talking about it a lot, we weren't getting the numbers we were looking for and the views and the likes and these kind of things. I feel like now there's just more people. There's just more people into Bitcoin. The servers are crashing. The numbers are going up. It's not even irrational. It's just number of people on the planet that haven't heard of Bitcoin yet, and we're getting more of them.
Here's one thing I'll say about that is that the greater fools, the well of greater fools, will almost certainly continue for as long as the regulation continues unabated. That I think would be the historic lesson that I would apply here. So it'll definitely, your statement as to the effect that this will go up is entirely contingent upon the time at which the SEC regulates. And one thing that fucking weirded me out more than anything else was that Preston Byrne seemed like one of the most reasonable guys at the conference. And that is crazy to me, because you have this progression of like old Bitcoiners to like Ethereum to like Preston Byrne, and then it just keeps on going now. And as things advance into like the further and further into madness, the freaks of yesterday are like the wise men of today. And you see that Preston Byrne is there. And I see this a little bit with digital asset holdings. I see this a little bit with R3, even as the madness continues. The people who are now in it for a year or two are looking at the noobs and saying, this is unreal. This has exceeded my ability to participate at some level. And I'm seeing it now with like Preston Byrne, who's yesterday's freak, who is today's like wise man in this crowd. So I don't know. Sometimes the lesson, it's weird. The people I see on Buttcoin are often very reasonable these days, and that wasn't always the case. And I don't know if Buttcoin is where you end up after having seen enough of Bitcoin to recognize the role that skepticism plays, or if it's just where jaded people go. But I foresee a lot of people in Bitcoin who are perfectly reasonable Bitcoiners who believe in Bitcoin going to places like Buttcoin, because that is where the skepticism is being done. And I see it to people like Preston Byrne, and it's amazing to me. Absolutely amazing. It's like watching a caterpillar turn into a butterfly or some such nonsense. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird.
It's starting to feel like all this Bitcoin knowledge is opening up the Ark of the Covenant, and somehow you look upon it and it's too bright. And you stare away and you're like, it's too much for me. And you look at it later and you're like, oh, it really was too much. It really is all these things that we want. And somehow we're going to get there. But all these noobs it's so bright. They can't see anything else. We're going to go to a quick comment from Jeffrey Jones, a quick comment from Tone Vase, and then we're going to go to Gabriel Devine. Here we go.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate something that, that Chris said. I mean, there was in the early days this greater purpose. I felt it. Everybody felt it. The whole community was actually caught up in a greater purpose, a greater movement. We all knew that we were doing something greater than ourselves. You know, we were basically trying to fix money, right? We were trying to do something greater than ourselves. And it does not feel like that so much anymore, right? All of these new people coming in with all of these tokens, you know, in the early days, it was all of us together huddled around a TV, like watching the regulations on television, watching FinCEN, right? We were like, oh, sweet. Oh, we're going to do it. You know, it was just, everybody was just watching and waiting for this new possibilities, this greater purpose, this greater movement. And now that to me, a lot of it is lost with all of these things, with these tokens, with Ethereum and things like that. Because I do not believe there's a lot of people in Ethereum that have this ideological purpose of fixing money, of creating something, you know, bigger than themselves. They just seem to want to create the next D app, make their $1 million and then exit, right? I mean, but the craziness is palpable. We got Coinbase signing up over 400,000 people a week, and GDAX taking 2 weeks to sign people up. And you know, it takes somebody like Fluffy Pony, right, to go to the conference and freaking troll these people proper. Because this is what it's going to take to start waking these people up. Is it's going to take some trolling. And you know, Christy Rose and Fluffy, I mean, you guys do it the best, so just keep it up.
That is the one part of the conference that I wish I could have seen. The fluffy pony speech sounds fantastic. And just to add to what Chris was saying earlier, we are waiting for the SEC to regulate this, but given the attitude, and I don't want to get too political here, but given the attitude of the Trump administration not filling out the government departments and hiring everyone, I don't know how much power the SEC is going to have, or the IRS. I don't know if they're going to expand into these new eras or just shrug their shoulders and let them go by. Tone Vey is a quick comment, but we've got to get to Gabriel Devine.
Yeah, no, very quick comment, because when Chris was talking about Preston Byrne, not only that, we're about Brian Hoffman. I mean, like, these are our voices of reason now, right? The people we used to make fun of, now they're the voices of reason. Now they're the ones that I like talking to these guys. I had sat down with Preston at the conference. Me and him are going, what the hell is going on here? And I would not in a million years, I would have bet all of my Bitcoin 3 years ago that I was never going to be on the side of the SEC and the regulators. And now I can't wait for them to get involved and just like get rid of all of these just scams that are printing their own securities. This is insane. I never thought I would do a 180 on the regulators.
The libertarians are bearing you now, Tone. Gabriel Devine, your thoughts on the suits coming into the conference?
Well, a lot of statements there that I'd like to make some comments on. First one, I'm going to follow on from what Tone was just saying and what Chris was saying, which is, that some people think that regulation can play a part here. I am not of that belief. I don't believe that the Albanian crisis was solved by the government stepping in. That was merely a symptom, not the solution. And I think that the leftist authoritarian approach to markets can work for a time, can be a band-aid. I think what we're going to see here is that because of cryptography, because of the many ways to be anonymous online, we're going to see the culture shift and the level of trust in these projects is going to drop, but it's going to take years, and a lot of people are going to lose a lot of money in the meantime. Regulators will never be able to keep up with this shit. The SEC may or may not step in, but it's not going to do much. There's going to be plenty of anonymous ICOs, and people are going to eventually, I think it's going to take 8-10 years maybe before really we see a big shift where it's like, what? You're just a freaking scammer. I got my Bitcoin, they're worth $100,000 a piece or whatever it is. And the time will shake out these, lies and scams, and intelligence will be the determining factor a lot more. That's the sovereign individual sort of hypothesis, which is not that it's something that one is for or against. It's merely the logic of violence and the logic of technology that individuals are being empowered. We're seeing that right now with Bitcoin. A bunch of individuals are empowered to, create ever more sophisticated scams and fleece ignorant people out of their money. And that's going to keep happening for a number of years until people just become totally skeptical. And that'll be a really interesting time, because if there are interesting projects, they'll still be relatively slow to catch on. If you think back to 2008, 2009, if you heard about Bitcoin back then, you're going to be like, wow, that sounds like such a scam. And I think that we're going to be coming back to something even more defensive than that, even more, not defensive, even more cautious than that. So,
hey, Gabe.
Yeah.
Just one thing, like when you say the regulators, look, everything, like the entirety of when you remove Bitcoin from the equation, you take everything else. Out of that everything else, I would say 95% of all that value is sitting on top of one person. And if that one person gets handcuffs on him, that entire house of cards implodes because there will be zero confidence in that system. You want to guess
Sure.
who that person is?
Vitalik Buterin.
Of course.
So I'm not saying that regulators won't have an effect on anything. I'm just saying that the wider shifts in culture will not be achieved by increasing regulators' budgets or having them work harder. The real shift is going to be people being disempowered by giving their money away to crooks. And the longer that happens, the less money that those people will have, and the more money the intelligent and prudent will have. And it's just inevitable. That's just how the world works. So, that's really a theme. Even us panelists, we, maybe even think of ourselves as somewhat, informed, if not, an occasional expert on the show. I don't consider myself an expert. I consider myself relatively well informed with a decent head on my shoulders. But still, I am referring to authority figures, because they convinced me. It's not because of their authority. I'm not appealing to their authority per se, but somebody's arguments, convinced me. Greg Maxwell, Adam Back, Andreas Antonopoulos, over time. Not what he says about Ethereum, but what he has said about Bitcoin for years. These guys convinced me with their arguments, but I'm not a C++ developer, and if I dive into the code base, I'm definitely swimming without an inner tube. So everybody is on this spectrum. You got one end with 12-year-olds with an app on their phone buying, some sort of Ethereum token with their video game. They have no idea about Bitcoin. They're just, throwing mom's $3 into an app coin. They have almost no knowledge. And then on the other hand, you have Bitcoin core developers, Luke Dash Jr. or Greg Maxwell or Peter Willey, some of the most innovative minds of our time. And everybody is somewhere on that spectrum. And, the people are going to get fleeced. Other people are going to be, that's just how the world is. And we're going to see monetary value being tied to one's ability to discern ever more in the coming years. So everyone get used to it, because this idea of, my nephew was, give me a job in this company, so now I'm VP and I make 275 grand a year and I have no fucking clue what I'm doing. That, I hate to call it, but meritocracy is kind of what these technologies are forcing on us. And as far as ICOs, as I've said many times on this show, I don't know who has heard me say it, but definitely Tone has. ICOs and DAOs, just decentralized autonomous organizations, in my opinion, they have a huge potential to completely transform our society and culture. All of those keywords and buzzwords and all that shit, in my opinion, that they're spewing out at these conferences for their frickin' scams, all of that hyperbole is actually completely true. However, to actually achieve one of these decentralized autonomous organizations where all of the participants who hold the token are also owners of the equity that has a function within that economy, is completely missing from nearly all of the projects that are being proposed, if not all. As I've said many times, I'm a fan of MadeSafe. I think they've been working on their project for 11 years. Who knows when they'll finish? But that's a genuine project. They've got funding. The MadeSafe coin is a placeholder for what they'll eventually launch. But that's the type of system where the coin plays an integral part, and it's got a proof of resource model that's tied to the physical world. I think that's something that's defensible. Maybe there are some other ICOs floating out there right now among the dozens that are also legitimate. It's very challenging to have time to investigate all of them, of course, and so many of them are so new. I completely agree with the rest of the panelists that virtually all of these are complete scams that are heading to zero. But I'd just like to point out that there is a potential there. And what's missing from most of these from all the scams that the genuine article will possess is a definitive link between the app coin or app token and its economy. you have these situations where it's this sort of vague, nebulous, vaguely worded white paper that has no bearing on anything, and it's just a crowdfunding model, and all the people that are buying these tokens are either going to be selling at the top, trying to sell at the top, or they're going to be greater fools because the entire what would you call it, premium, what do you call it, stock, when you get paid dividends, right? So there needs to be an integrated dividend model with these DAOs. And if they don't have that, and it's not cryptographically provable, and it goes through a central source, then it's exactly what DeRose is saying, which is it's just a scam with a guy behind it who's issuing a bunch of pre-mined bullshit. It's just like issuing a bunch of stocks for your penny stock and trying to get around the SEC. But if they can create a cryptographically proved system where any money that is coming in, any value that comes into the system, if somebody sells Bitcoin and buys the app token and actually uses it, people will have to, the owners of those app tokens will have to be paid their dividends or whatever the system is in a cryptographically provable and decentralized way. Otherwise, pure scam.
Now, I would totally agree with Gabriel that everything they say is true, just not yet. And the other thing is that I'm rather impressed. Well, maybe impressed isn't right the word. Maybe I'd say horrified. I'm rather horrified at the way in which these people can invest into random things. I found it very difficult to buy my first Bitcoins. I didn't know very much about Bitcoins. I worked hard to get my money. I thought I was sending it into a black hole. I would never see my money again. And yet we have people who are presented now with 3 options at Coinbase, and they choose randomly to buy Ethereum or Litecoin because it was cheaper. And sure, that's a fine reason to buy something, but we're talking about an investment. If you're putting thousands of dollars into it, maybe you need to know more. But then again, these people that invested randomly in Ethereum made thousands of dollars, so maybe you need to know less. Chris DeRose, do you have another comment on this before we go to the exit question?
Yeah, one last point that I wanted to make is that there's a funny side effect of this ICO thing, and you've seen it over and over again. We've seen it with Dan Larimer. We've seen it with a number of people in the Ethereum team. They are announcing the entirety of their company's receivables for sale at launch. At that time, any money that could possibly have been made in an incumbent model is no longer makeable. So they've released a significant to a majority amount of that value into the economy. They've collected it. They've sold that, and they have it themselves. This isn't exact, but this is roughly the case. And now their incentive is to leave. You don't give somebody somebody who announces a new company, I don't know, a pizza parlor, you don't give him the entirety of his company's sales and then expect him to work for the next however many years and continue to make good on that promise when he could just leave and take the money that he could have otherwise have earned and pocket it and left. And that's what's going on. And yes, they put some amount of capital theoretically in the form of inventory that they keep in the project, but that's just a token. No pun intended.
Yeah. Hey,
a token representation.
Chris.
Yeah.
On that note, real quick, Fred Wilson, the Union Square Venture VC, the last person I heard speak at yesterday's token summit, he talked about this, how a lot of these companies got way too much money in the front, and they don't do anything with it. And you know what example he used for it?
Tell me.
Blockstream.
Oh, I did see that, but I didn't know that was the context. That's absurd. That's completely absurd.
That was his example of a company that got way too much funding up front and didn't have and isn't doing anything with the money. That's that's his example.
Completely absurd.
Now I've seen them speak at the Bitcoin developers meetup, and the stuff that they're working on is so over everyone's head. They were working on how to improve if you transmitted a Bitcoin address over a telephone and you were writing it down and you made mistakes. They were talking about how to improve that process. And they had done incredible work on it. It was like a scientific thesis about basically, words that people would get wrong. It's just out of their minds. But go ahead, Chris. Do you have more on this, or Gabriel?
No, that's all. It's just you're with these ICOs, you're paying people to leave their company. It's like, here you go, you had a great idea, I will pay you to leave, and like that's often what's happening.
Yeah, the incentives are completely crazy and wacky, and that's something that you have to that you have to adjudicate on an individual basis. And that's why, so many of these white papers are complete bullshit. Only somebody who's read at least 5 or 10 can tell that there's something at all there. And you probably have to really have a degree in cryptography almost to tell whether something is viable or not in the long run. But at least if it's not a scam, that's a little bit of a lower bar. I just want to say that I never actually answered the question, which is, has big finance taken over? I'm going to say no. Big finance is riding the coattails of the nerds. And I saw a great tweet floating around. I can't remember who, I think it was by the guy who's always talking about regulation. I'm trying to remember. He's like an old foundation guy, Bitcoin Foundation. But apparently he heard a guy in a suit say that the hoodie guys are all millionaires now. So, the Joseph Poon, this is kind of what he's talking about, where it's all the suits, right? You can tell it's very clear, and you can see the pictures. Vortex was watching, but the pictures of the panels, you got the one guy with the hoodie, and then the rest of these schmucks with ties on. No offense, Thomas. It doesn't count for you because you're hosting the show. So, these schmucks just want to get in on the action, make a buck on their scams. But of course, the important point is all their instincts are wrong. Because the tide has shifted. It's 2017. It's over. The argument about whether Bitcoin can work or something is, nobody even tries to do that anymore because it's obvious this thing freaking works. The consensus algorithm created by Satoshi Nakamoto works. Their paradigm is now overshadowed by real open innovation. And that is the opposite model of the corporate hierarchy. Only the tiniest fraction of these, tie wearers will actually be able to pivot their businesses successfully. The rest of fintech, the entire fintech movement, will be bust within 4 years, is my prediction.
And this is what we used to say about the .coms. We'd say your business needs to get online. If your business doesn't transition to the online, you'll be dead in 5 years. And they laughed and they laughed, and then we destroyed the music industry and the movie industry, and the finance industry is next. And it's unfortunate, but it's what's going to happen. It's evolutionary. It's unstoppable. Let's move on to, and of course, this suit's just a costume. They gave it to me in wardrobe. Let's move on to the exit question. Is it good that big finance has taken over, making it more likely that anyone who owns a single Bitcoin will be rich, or bad because Bitcoin was more than something you owned? It was something you believed in. Tone Vase.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Is it good to be rich because finance is here, or bad because Bitcoin was a belief system before?
I don't know how to answer that. Honestly, I don't even know how to answer the question. I don't get the question. Look, it's
you have to do a moral judgment between the value of being rich versus the value of having a community of substance.
Well, I clearly chose the community. I clearly chose to be like a content creator way over being rich. And I'm not even talking about the altcoin space, even back in the Bitcoin space. I mean, all I had to do was shut up, work my 100-figure job, and convert it all into Bitcoin. And I would be significantly better off today, even not participating in the Ethereum stuff. And maybe if I didn't meet any of you guys who are on this panel, maybe I would have fallen into the whole group thing and bought Ethereum and Ripple and God knows what else. Now, I don't regret any of those decisions. And I regret like other decisions, but not these. And it is what it is. And maybe when this whole crypto space implodes, like the .com bubble, hopefully Bitcoin will not only be the last one standing, but it will also absorb a lot of that value. And the fear is that it'll absorb too much value, and that will pump like crazy and get crushed under its own weight.
Jeffrey,
that's why we need SegWit. We'll get to that later.
Go ahead, Jeff.
So, sorry, what was the exit question?
Is Bitcoin better because it makes you rich, or is it better because it's something you believe in? Nice.
All right. So for me, what, like I've said this before, like what gets me up in the morning, right, is the mission of separation of money and state. Like I've always been about the mission with Bitcoin. That's why I got into Bitcoin, is to stop people from printing money, not to enable more people to print more money. So for me, it's about the mission. And really, in my opinion, that's what is going to make Bitcoin win. The open source, the free open source development, the contribution, the voluntary work that is being done by some of the smartest people in the world. That is what's going to win, and that's what's important to me.
Neither a borrower nor a lender be, this above all, to thine own self be true. Chris DeRose, is it better to be rich or to have a good community?
I think you said this was a moral question. I'm incapable of answering those, but I can answer this comedically, to which I'd say, absolutely, this is wonderful. I love the finance people here, because there was an alternate universe where we did this thing and maybe it didn't work, or maybe, I don't know, something else came by and detracted Bitcoin. But now at least I get to say, well, it did or didn't work, still TBD, but we weren't as stupid as those guys. So I'll take it. I'm happy for that.
Gabriel Devine, the better suits are here. They have nicer suits with collars.
Yeah, you know, I once again, I disagree with the thesis that big finance has taken over. I think they're getting taken over. They're getting eaten up. And if anything, they're going to be the bag holders and greater fools with their worthless fiat and stocks and bonds, that government defaults, while our audience, all you guys, the 408 of you or more, will be the winners, because you've been listening to us, prudently storing your wealth in Bitcoin and making fun of all the scams out there. So let's keep ridiculing and keep stacking our Bitcoin.
I think you can also get an ounce of gold for about half a Bitcoin now. That's 2 ounces for a Bitcoin. And we'd like to thank our 480 live viewers. That's a lot. If everyone could give us a thumbs up and a share, that'd be great. We're moving on to issue 3. Issue 3, ICO Mania. More and more seemingly reputable companies are announcing ICOs this week, with Vinny Lingham, former CEO of GIF, taking his blockchain identity program to ICO, joining chat app Kik, which seeks to challenge Facebook with a developer ecosystem. Meanwhile, Brave Software is launching a basic attention token as they continue their goals of paying creators for their time. Jeffrey Jones, any interest in these ICOs? Have ICOs suddenly become a mainstream and respectable way to raise funds?
Like, look, I'm all about crowdfunding. I'm all about somebody with passion going out and with a plan and passion going out and asking people for money to help fund their idea, right? Like that's pretty great. Like that's and I think that cryptocurrencies will continue to facilitate that use case. However, without the world that we live in right now, you know, anybody can throw up a white paper, a website, and lie to somebody and tell them that, hey, this is the next big thing, and get $1 million. And so until such time as the rest of the panelists have said it, until such time as someone and anybody can just look quickly and just think, okay, that's a scam. My Bitcoin, that's the real money. Until we live in that world where people recognize Bitcoin as real money and these tokens and these other things, and just recognize them as stocks, or just recognize them as, you know, for what they are, tokens in a database, and recognize Bitcoin as real money, until we get to that point, you know, there's going to be a lot of these freaking people raising these ICOs. And for every, 1,000 ICOs, there'll be one decent, interesting project, right? So there will be some interesting stuff that's going to be funded from these ICOs, but unfortunately, 99% is going to be crap. 99% of people are going to lose their money. They're going to go cry to the government. SEC is going to come in and they're going to regulate the shit out of it. So, I mean, and, they're going to try, at least. They're going to try. And that's going to definitely drop the prices and up the barrier entry to create an ICO. And so, that could come at any given time. Nobody really knows when that's coming. But at this point in time, like I said, I mean, if you really have an amazing idea, an amazing project, try Kickstarter. Go on something else where you're not asking people for millions and millions of dollars just so you can exit scam later.
99% crap, but 1% quality. Chris DeRose, would you buy that for $1?
No, I'm not buying anything anymore. I'm too scared. I'm gonna start a farm. I'm gonna do the libertarian thing. I'm going out in the middle of nowhere. Avoid these crazies. I'm watching all this ICO stuff, and there's a lot of things that are very funny to me. So this Vinny Lingham thing. First off, just coincidentally, I interviewed Steve Wilson. I put this interview up actually a couple of days ago, and we talk about blockchain identity, which is like the pretense of his fundraise theoretically. And there's no money in that. There's never been any money in this. Like, the whole thing is absurd. But it doesn't really matter because like it's got the Vinny Lingham name on it. So basically what these people do, people like Vinny Lingham, is they say, I'm going to start an affinity scam. I'm here. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do my affinity scam. And that's what they all do. Dan Larimer, Vitalik, etc. We're seeing people branch out. You see that certainly in the, I guess, celebrity space with Vinny Lingham now, where he's going to launch an affinity scam. It doesn't really matter like what it is. It could have been VR, it could have been gaming, it could have been anything. So he shows identity, and people are going to put money into it because you do the Keynesian beauty contest thing, where you don't evaluate the thing. Like this is a mistake. Clearly, the thing that I've always done, the thing I think everybody here has done, has evaluated the technology on its merit and then extrapolated like personal meaning out of that. Like that's appropriate in the sense that, you know, that's the fundamental value proposition, but it's inappropriate in the sense that we thought that applied to investment. And in the case of investment, the way to accurately protect, you know, make these decisions is to survey the crowd and to perform analysis of the pumpers and to project what the Keynesian beauty contest will return. Nobody takes this stuff off the exchanges. This inventory just sits there. No one's ever going to use any of this stuff. It doesn't matter what the implementation is because all they're voting on is what is the most beautiful presentation of features to the next guy. So that when I see this kind of stuff, like it's very funny to me that the degree of rhetoric that goes into a quote unquote white paper that is only designed to like sort of cultivate an identity for this purpose. There's no greater sense there. You know, and I think Warren Buffett says in the short term, markets are voting machines. In the long term, they're weighing machines. Everything I think that I've ever done, certainly what I see for most of you guys, has been in weighing these propositions. But weighing only works when white papers are of an academic nature. When the white paper is of a marketing nature, that's completely inappropriate. Now you have to decide what the voting mechanism is going to be for the market. So yeah, the other thing that's really funny too is like nobody ever cares what the tokens are for. Like I look at the what is this with Kick? Like I don't know what it's for, but like they're creating scarcity that doesn't exist. You have tons of messaging apps for which there's just no scarcity, none, and they're retroactively putting into their affinity scam what could conceivably be marketed as a scarce resource. Now maybe they would say advertising space is scarce, but they're not charging for it now. And so to say that the market needs to be created then, where we have this sort of like pre-sale of all receivables is just absurd. And in fact, what's also really weird that I'm waiting to see what happens, and I got into this with Simon Dixon, is as the project goes on, your liabilities grow because you as a project leader now have to deal with the pissed off investors. So when Kick announces that it's doing this ICO, who at Kick is announcing it? Is it the CEO? Is it the marketing department? Is it the technical department? Because what happens then is the clock is ticking for that guy to leave the company. Because what will inevitably happen is people will get pissed off. They'll be looking for somebody to blame. That'll result in maybe his firing, or at least on his professional resume, the association with this scam is going to be poor. So you're kind of like opening up the door for everybody at your company to leave that's related to this stuff. And now you're going to hand this bag over to the principals, the decision makers, et cetera, that are remaining. And that's going to be very funny. I think one of the questions too that's interesting here with the Kick thing, does Kick need money? Like that's because that's kind of a story if that's true. It wouldn't surprise me if that's true. And for me with this ICO stuff, I've been saying this for a little while. It's very obvious. If ICOs are continued unabated, then every single company has to switch to this model because it is a more efficient model of raising revenue, seeing that there is no strings attached. Like you could just go out there.
And of course it's more efficient. There's no regulation. This is practically a Donald Trump seminar here. You remove the regulation, now you can do whatever you want. Maybe you tear down the trees, but again, it's faster, right? Buildings faster.
Absolutely. Well, absolutely. One last point I'll say on this too is that it's very funny to me how the scaling debate went because there's all kinds of ins and outs. We don't really have to talk about it, but the Bitcoin problems are blockchain problems, and I know that. And maybe you guys are undecided, maybe you think otherwise, and we'll see. But what's very obvious to me is that Ethereum is going to start having these limits if they're not already. I think they're already at 60 cents a transaction. So what happens now when you've been telling everybody that like Bitcoin's scaling problem is like this Bitcoin thing? Meanwhile, Kick is going to go ahead and theoretically like charge for messages or something high volume. Who the hell knows? At what is the Kick price plus 60 cents in ETH price. One of two things is going to happen. They'll centralize, very likely in the case of Ethereum that they'll just do that. But if they don't do that, then all these projects are going to move off quote unquote blockchain and into database, which is where all this stuff belongs to begin with. So that should be the next step in some of these things, if it gets that far, which it may not. All right, next guy.
Everything old is new again. I've got a MySQL database and some PHP I can sell you. Let's go to Gabriel Devine.
Yeah, Chris made some great points there. You know, most of the current wave of ICOs are scams. Like I said, they're going to go belly up. I think a lot of them will go belly up within 12 months. But I'll stick to what I'm saying. You know, for the last 3 years, I've been, you know, once I understood the potential of a distributed organization, you know, these cryptographic tools and consensus mathematical configurations are sort of a glue or a bridge between social scaling and technological scaling. This is a point that Nick Szabo has made. And, you know, app tokens with truly integrated networks and distributed ownership use models will become the new decentralized tech behemoths to replace Google and Facebook and even Apple, you know, on the hardware level, 3D printing. But less than 1% of the current ICOs will exist by the time that happens. I think in 10 years, we're going to see some of that starting up and maybe in early phases. But this is definitely Wild West territory. And you know, the kick thing is just ridiculous. It's completely stupid. And Chris makes a great point about transaction volume. You know, a centralized company utilizing a decentralized token, you're going to hit that wall at some point. And if your incentives don't line up, like they don't for every centralized company, your scheme will collapse.
Now, I'm not sure you saw it, Gabe, but they actually had an article in Coinbase where they said exactly what you said, but they said, now these companies will beat Apple. They will beat Facebook. They will beat Google. Do you believe the tokens have given them that much power, or is this just ridiculous hubris?
Hello. It is ridiculous hubris.
No superpowers for them. Let's go to Tone Vase. He's got an article ready.
Hey, so are we combining all of the stories, like the Vinny Lingham ICO, the Kick ICO, the Brave ICO? Are they all in one?
Bingo, you've got it.
Okay, good. This is completely insane. Like, I haven't even had time to look at Vinny Lingham ICO, and like this is another reason why I don't think I'm gonna even like attempt to make any more friends with people in this space, because the next thing I know, they go ICO, and now I have a conflict.
It's crazy.
Now I have a conflict of interest, you know, objectively analyzing their project, because I've already like become friends with the ICO. Reggie Middleton did this to me. Now
all scammers. They're all
Vinny is doing this to me. Like that's it. It's like, and I'm running out of friends in this space completely, which I'm kind of okay with. So well, I just tweeted out before the show, I'm comparing, because Kick is like the first actual company with, I don't think they have revenue, but at least they're an actual company that people know. And I'm comparing it to the Steve Madden shoe company. If you guys saw The Wolf of Wall Street, if you've seen The Wolf of Wall Street, if you don't, you have to watch The Wolf of Wall Street. In fact, I'm going to put together like a list of movies. The recent movie Gold, Wolf of Wall Street, like all of those other movies. And that shows you how out of control this insanity is getting. Like I found that the Brave browser, like when you look at the Brave article, right? Here's a question. Can somebody answer this for me? This is what the Brave is seeking, between 4 and 15 million Ethereum. What does that mean? Dollar sign in front of it. Can you tell me what that? Can somebody tell me what that means?
That's the amount of Ethereum that they want to raise with their token.
Ether. They mean Ether.
Do they mean Ether, or do they mean dollars worth of Ether?
Ether.
You sure?
You're meeting Gabriel, but yeah, no, they want Ether, but of course, you know they're gonna freaking immediately exchange most of that back for dollars.
Well, no. This is a big thing, right? Because I want to understand. Look, one Ether was worth $200 yesterday. So are they looking for 15 million Ether or $15 million? Because that's a difference of 200.
$15 million worth of Ether.
Yeah.
I mean,
$1 million browser.
this is freaking insane. And I heard the CEO of this talking about, like, these people are realizing that all they have to do is just like put out these ICOs. Again, I think we talked about this enough in our previous topic. I don't really know what else I can add to this. I haven't read about Vinny's project. I'm trying to be a little less critical, like with the Brock Pierce ICO. Like, I think I think you just have to, I don't want to meet like any more people. Like everyone is like sending me their white papers right now. This is crazy. I have no time to read any of it. And yeah, I don't know what to say at this point. I mean, everyone is printing their own securities because they're mad at like Wall Street and that they're the problem. This is like, I'm speechless. I was like speechless at these conferences. I didn't know what to say.
This reminds me of an old line from David Byrne's movie True Stories, where he says that metal buildings are the dream that architects had, but they didn't know they were having it because you don't need an architect to set up a metal building. These are securities for everybody, the dream that everyone had, and you don't need a Wall Street guy to set them up. Isn't it great, Tom?
And here's the crazy part, though. Like, this is why it's so hard to analyze these things, right? One, your project itself may or may not be stupid in, debatable. Like your idea can be debatable, right? Then you have you creating your own quasi-security, quasi-currency to pay your people with the security, right? I don't think that's actually debatable, but that's the rage. Then you have the fact that you're building this thing on a Ponzi, which is Ethereum. You're building it on top of Ethereum, which we all know is going to fork when they try to go proof of stake. So it's like these are multiple things. So even if your idea is good, which is like maybe Brock Pierce, and then you don't create it as a tradable currency / security because it's fully tied to your fund, you're still building it on top of Ethereum, which I think is ridiculous. So, and now you got to explain all three of these different facets on top of God knows what else to a person trying to explain to them why the ICO is nonsense. Anyway, I'll leave it there. I do want to talk about the next topic, which is most important. So I'm going to log in from my cell phone and take the show on the road.
All right, one more comment from Chris DeRose. Did you have one more thing to add?
Yeah, Tone, I want you to hear this before you get up. Tone, this is really important. In fact, everybody should probably listen to this. There's this fundamental property of blockchains in that the blockchain grows or stays stable depending on the capital inflow into the blockchain. That capital inflow is the money that you're throwing in there at any given time. You got to keep this thing going. In the case of Bitcoin, we get that from sex, drugs, and rock and roll. That's great. No other blockchain has something that is as inelastic as that. However, the innovation of Ethereum is principally that you can create this Ponzi that is Ethereum, and it will amass the properties of all other Ponzis. These Ponzis will contribute to it, and it'll grow as big as any Ponzi. That may or may not be what they succeed in, but if in fact they succeed in that, that has major ramifications for Bitcoin. I look at like Brave, for example, is a perfect example of this. Brave, I think, was originally going to do a Bitcoin fundraise, but the greater fools were in Ethereum. It needed that feature of the Ethereum blockchain in order to grow. So it attached the Ponzi that is Brave to the Ponzi that is Ethereum, and the capital inflows coming to Ethereum are growing with every one of these. So like it may be the story, I hate to be this way about it, I really do, but it may be the story of blockchain ends up being that the nature of blockchain is such that the speculative interests grow and grow and grow until you hit something like Ethereum, whereby Ethereum could actually gain more speculative capital inflow than Bitcoin. The size of the greater fools in speculative markets may exceed the fundamental value needs of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So if that's the case,
I agree.
If that's the case, by the way, the property of blockchain probably will be thereafter that blockchain doesn't work, that what you will have is a series of booms and busts in these low liquidity markets from here on out. That would be my guess. So
I can't help. I can't wait to write like the history book of the greatest Ponzi in the world, like the greatest bubble in the world being blockchain. And let me go one deeper on you, Chris, in this case, right?
One deeper than me.
Yeah. How many companies are now popping up to compete with Ethereum for ICOs to put their Ponzi on top of their Ponzi? Right? I mean, Rootstock is trying to do it.
Rootstock, right.
Probably they're trying to do it in probably the most legit and honest way. But then you have like all of these other ones, like Lisk or Waves or whatever they are, or like what's the Geonosis? Is it? Like you have all of these Ethereum copycats trying to convince these ICOs to do it on them. And Ethereum Classic wishes they were Ethereum right now for all these ICOs to be built on them.
We'll see what happens. The innovations in Ponzi technology must actually support a load here. So what's going to be interesting is if Ethereum can do that.
Keep in mind that you know how you say, oh, you're getting all of your money in round one. No, you're not, because then you can do the same thing again on Ethereum Classic, and then you can do it again on Rootstock.
Maybe. I mean, that's storage. The storage crowdfund is hilarious because they made a community promise that they would not be releasing more than a certain amount of supply per year, and now they just threw it out the window. But like it doesn't seem to matter. Nobody cares because like that is nonetheless a better beauty to invest in for the next guy than so it just doesn't matter. Like it's a science-free zone. Like whatever you can sell to people, fucking chill it. I don't even mind if people like sell these things at this point. Like I lost. I tried to police the space as best I could. It was a stupid idea.
I'm with you.
And so now I'm just like,
I'm
okay, whatever. I don't fucking care. I lost. All right, move on.
I knew that's what I should have invested in. Ponzi technology. Let's go to Jeffrey Jones has a quick point. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I just definitely have to agree again. I think, Chris, we've lost. We've definitely lost. At this point, we're the crazy people. We are the crazy people who everybody points to and said, ha ha, I made $1 million from not listening to you guys. And it's like, all right, that's fine. That's great. We've lost. Really, though, it's the greed that's driving this, right? It's no longer any type of, altruism or sense of wanting to have a greater purpose. No, it's all about greed. And that's kind of what we're at right now. So, we hope that doesn't continue. But just one final thing is that I just want to say that, look, if you guys, I really hope that more people criticize people over Twitter, over Reddit, continue to criticize these ICOs, continue to ask these people questions, because here's what's going to happen. You're going to get blocked, and then you're going to realize, oh, wait a second. Why are they not answering my questions? And why are they blocking all these other people asking all these questions? There's a reason for that. Criticisms get blocked. And, like Chris says, the only block, that's what block stands for in blockchain, is a freaking block on Twitter. So continue to ask these people questions so you will find out more information. And the people that will answer you, definitely look into that. Don't just let them use buzzwords. Peer review people, continue asking questions. And that's what I wanted to say.
Don't worry, Samwise. We'll get the ring to Mount Doom. One more comment, Gabriel Devine.
Yeah, I'd like to welcome Tone and Chris to the not giving a fuck side of the spectrum. These people, gamblers gonna gamble, foo's gonna foo. People, speculators gonna speculate. If you can pass off the bag, if you can pass off that hot potato, pass the buck before your next, before your fellow man, hey, that's the free market. It's going to keep happening, and nothing you can do can stop it. But perhaps a couple of shouts into the void. We got 400 viewers here today. Maybe we can turn on just a few people, not to be idiots. And like I said before, meritocracy. When there are going to be shakeouts, and a lot of these people are going to lose their shirts, and they're going to put the rest of their money into Bitcoin when it's underpinning a new financial system.
Let's move on to the exit question. Which one of these ICOs would you invest in? Jeffrey Jones.
Oh my God. I mean, look, first of all, again, invest in what you guys want to invest in. Do your research. And, if you guys want to invest in these things, great. There is some people that are investing in all of these and making money, right? Like a shotgun approach.
And exactly, we want to have that shotgun approach. If you were in a dark alley and someone approached you with a gun, which one of these three would you invest in? It's like
oh my God, I can't even begin to answer. That would require me holding Ethereum. And that right there would not allow me to sleep at night. So, sorry.
It depends on the size of the gun. Krista Rose.
It's very easy. As I understand the demographic for Kik, it's like kids, right? So it's like a kid's telegram or something. So you're going to have the biggest idiots there. So that's the #1 place to put your money.
Gabriel Devine.
None of the above.
Tone
Total.
Vase.
That was a cop out.
Sounds really quiet. Microphone closer, maybe?
Sure, I hope it's not picking up a speaker from the phone. Is this better?
Yeah, that's better. Go ahead.
Shoot. I'm gonna have to go with Vinny Lingham's only because he's building on rootstock, and I just cannot. I don't have anything in me to do anything.
I can't hear you, man. That ain't
No,
working.
we can't hear you, but it sounds like you're saying Vinny Lingham, and that's what I'd have to agree with. Civic sounds like the best project, but I liked it better when I thought he would use all of his connections to get VC the normal way. It seemed really traditional to me.
Decentralized identity is the future. All decentralized things will collapse. They're bullshit.
I just cannot put any money in anything built on top of Ethereum. So the only reason why Vinny wins that battle is because it's on rootstock.
And let's move on to issue 4, the Silbert Accords. 58 companies located in 22 countries with 83% of the hashing power, a $5.1 billion on-chain transaction value, and 20.5 million Bitcoin wallets have made the decision on segregated witness. And the answer is yes. Bitcoin miners, including Bitmain, have joined with DCG et al. In an agreement that's reminiscent of the Hong Kong agreement. Segregated witness adoption at 80%, down from 95%, and a hard fork to 2 megabytes in 6 months. Chris DeRose, is this the end of the Bitcoin scaling debate? Has Barry Silbert created peace?
I doubt it. You know, like this whole thing was weird. It just kind of came out of like left field after like months and months and months and months. All of a sudden, Barry decided to swing his big dick out and like slap everybody in the face. And like, fine, maybe he can do that, and that's okay if that's what he wants to do. But I'm skeptical that it works that way in Bitcoin. I really am. It's a little bit bizarre for a number of reasons. One of which is that like they agreed to this 2 megabyte block, but like everybody should know at this point that like that's going to do nothing. Because you're going to have an immediate backlog, and I think that's fine, to be clear. I think it's absolutely fine. But like these people that are like arguing for it, are they going to have the same exact complaints coming up against the 2 megabyte block that they had at 1? Because there's always going to be a reason to put transactions in the blockchain, and they haven't like figured that out yet. So I don't know what that is other than some kind of concession. Eric Lombroso, I would even want to hear what Tone has to say about that, because I love him, and he was in rare form at the conference. And I'd like to know what he has to say about it. I think this whole thing was probably rushed. I understand where Barry's at, because I hear this too all the time. You don't understand, for people that watch the show, how often you get lobbied as a content producer. Lobbied every day, all the time. And I definitely see that a lot of people are having a problem clearing transactions, but it's like the universe only makes so much bandwidth available. You know, you can similarly tell your local representative, city representative, that the highway is too small, and he'll look at you and be like, yeah, we all agree, but we need to like make do, because this is what like the function of limited resources has against us at the moment. So that's the way I see it. And I don't know, like the whole thing was kind of weird and rushed. I'm very skeptical that that'll change. SegWit would be wonderful. It will be, as a result of both the 2 megabytes and the SegWit, will definitely have a significant amount of space, but then there's this sort of hard fork issue that could be tons of lulls for somebody. So like we could end up with our own version of like ETC if Roger Ver ends up unhappy and Bitmain decides that's a good time to wrestle control. Who the hell knows? Another crazy day in Bitcoin.
They did announce the May meeting, but it was a bit of a deus ex machina, the way it all came together at the end really perfectly. It was quite a surprise. Let's go to Gabriel D. Vaughn.
I don't agree that hard fork is really on the table here. I've been convinced from the start that the entire talk of forcing or trying to meet in the middle about a hard fork is completely empty posturing, just to try to push the delay the inevitable and allow Bitmain and other miners using their hardware to take advantage of ASIC Boost for longer. There's no other explanation I've heard that is reasonable. So they're just trying to push the ball down the road and avoid the inevitable SegWit activation and deactivation of their cheat, essentially not cheat, but of their of their technology that they're using that's allowing them to mine more efficiently than their competitors. They're just trying to get more Bitcoin, and that's how the market works, and it's to be expected. But of course, they're going to do dirty tricks and use social engineering to try to get there. But the thing that I think's once again, I kind of mentioned this before, is this idea of investors from the corporate space and from fintech trying to apply their philosophy to the Bitcoin world and watching them fall flat on their face. It really goes to show what early days the Bitcoin ecosystem is still in. That Barry Silbert, a longtime crypto investor and entrepreneur, he's been in it probably 5 years-ish, possibly longer, that he can still make this rookie philosophical error that captains of industry can steer the ship of a decentralized system like Bitcoin. Unlike his brother Alan, who I don't see him really chiming in. He seems a lot more savvy. Barry has, in my opinion, always been a typical Wall Street fast-talking schlub. I've seen him on TV. He's got that MBA type of polish, and but yet I thought he kind of understood the tech at least. But this attempted coup to override the power of the nodes and users is the first 100% clear sign to me that he actually has no fucking idea what he's really dealing with. He's trying to force a corporate mindset onto a network, an ecosystem of equal peers. It's not a corporation, and it's going to fail just like the Hong Kong Accord did. Consensus in these systems cannot be forced. It's not a representative democracy, and it's not an authoritarian corporatocracy. And so in light of that, the name of the conference where it was presented is just so ironic.
Because we're all in agreement. And I would agree, Gabe, it's a conflict of styles. We have the corporate style versus the more scientific open source style of Bitcoin. And I don't want to get political again, but we have a similar situation going on with Donald Trump. He's bringing in what they call the corporate style to a more government style. Government's a different system. These two things may be incompatible, may be very difficult to bring them together. Tone Vase, your thoughts on the recent peace accords handed down from above?
All right, guys, how's my volume?
Sounds good. You have your hand
Okay.
off the microphone. That's working great.
All right, excellent. So I don't know what Eric Lombroso thinks because I didn't see him at the conference. I didn't even know he was there. There's just so many people there. I did not run into Eric at all. Now, I think this is completely crazy. And like no one from Blockstream, not only did no one from Blockstream or any other core developers sign this thing, they weren't even in the room. They weren't even advised on this thing. This is how insane this agreement is. And two companies that I actually really like in the space signed it, which kind of bothers me a little bit because I just read the article, in prep for the show. One of them is Bitfury and one of them is UnoCoin. Now, I kind of understand from a business perspective why they would do it because, but philosophically, that makes no sense to me. I couldn't care less about any other company that signed it. I just really, really like those two. In reality, this is not only technically impossible, this is like economically impossible because once SegWit was created as a soft fork, even if there is a chance that SegWit and Lightning solve the problem, the all talk of a hard fork immediately go off the table. Any attempt to do a hard fork without allowing segregated witness and a Lightning network to solve the entire problem, any attempt to hard fork automatically results into Bitcoin. That's it. All of the core developers know this. They all know this, and this is why it would be grossly irresponsible for them to even hint at agreeing to this stupidity. Now, what I actually said to Adam back, which I kind of regret, is yeah, sign the damn thing, whatever. Promise them anything they want to just get SegWit in there, and then that's it. Because we all know it's not going to 2 megabytes. In hindsight, that was a bad thing to say, because then there will be, actual fuel to add to the fire of people, calling out core developers for something, right? So maybe you shouldn't do that. Like, I would love to see, like, I will do it. I will ruin my reputation. Like, give me that piece of paper. I will sign it. I will promise you the 2 megabyte hard fork. Forget 6 months after. I'll promise you a 2 megabyte hard fork 2 weeks after SegWit officially is in. I'll promise it to you. That's fine. And because you know what? I don't care. I'll ruin my reputation just to get SegWit in there. And then I'm going to say, haha, I lied. Thank you for getting SegWit in. I mean, this is like dumb beyond belief. I'll just leave it there. I don't know what else I can add to this.
I think you're right, Tone. It is about the scientific aspect of this. If we try SegWit and it works and Lightning Network works, we don't need to double the block size. Chris mentioned roads, and it always comes back to roads for libertarians. If we just keep making the roads wider, we're not going to have any cities anymore. What we need to do is invent flying cars or invent self-driving cars. We need to think outside the box here. Chris, did you have another point to add on that?
Yeah, one other thing I would say too that is very interesting to me that I see in Barry's behavior here is that he is in the middle of like ICO fucking hurricane. And for people that are completely untested in their claims of what they're promising, the suckers out there are putting money into these ICOs, as we've discussed. And I think that for him, he sees Bitcoin now as being, quote unquote, unable to compete. What we all know is that Bitcoin isn't necessarily driven by speculative capital inflow. There's a fundamental capital inflow. But I don't know that he can rectify that easily with investors at this point. Not only because it's a hard thing for people to understand, but B, then you have to sit down as Barry Silbert and say, yeah, well, basically, this works because we facilitate gambling, drugs, prostitution, etc. So when he comes into the table, I think that like the perception is that Bitcoin isn't advancing fast enough because it's not moving on this model of chasing the Keynesian beauty contest. So I think that was a lot of the motivation for this. And the other thing that's really important about this too is that like Roger Ver, in my estimation of him, has not figured out how the fundamental value of blockchain works either. He's very much stuck on this speculative model. And a lot of his understanding of blockchain is that we need to get more transactions in so that more people put more money in so that Bitcoin can grow and everything's happy because all we have to do is completely, is double the amount of greater fools every year and then everybody's happy. But that's, of course, unsustainable. So when you see these types of things being hurried through the door and such, I think for me, that's what I'm seeing at some level in terms of the motivations of those people. And, that's unfortunate because here we have a space now where I'm going to try not to talk about this too much because I've been grappling this a lot. You can see this on my channel. Like, what responsibility do you have as a Bitcoiner now? Like, because here you have this model whereby shitcoins are destroying the performance of Bitcoin. And the reason for that is because the SEC isn't regulating. I would almost want to propose that the final question should be, as a Bitcoiner, is it your financial interest to pursue the SEC's regulation of the space, seeing that these are the types of things that happen to your quote unquote blockchain as a result of that lack of protection? In fact, maybe even Tone can answer that.
Oh man, that is an amazing point. I did not even think about that. And in a way, you might.
We can't hear you anymore, Tone. We can't hear you.
Shit. Okay. Fuck.
Start over.
Right. Damn, it doesn't seem to be picking up the microphone on my headphones, and I have to like literally be right at the phone. Is this better?
There we go.
Damn.
Yeah. And now.
That was the speaker button. All right. Anyway, you're absolutely right, Chris. Like, at which point does it become like our obligation for the for the quality and I guess the success of Bitcoin to go up is to get the SEC to go after these bull affinity scams and illegal securities, because thanks to Jason Silbert, Bitcoin is not a security according to the SEC or I guess one of the other regulators or a federal judge. But I was gonna say another thing is how can we help police the network? Not that I want to police the network, but a lot of people are suspecting that people like Roger and others in that camp have now heavily invested into altcoins, that it's in their financial interest not to have Bitcoin succeed.
That's certainly true of Voorhees.
Right.
So Tone, is it in your interest to call the SEC?
It might. You're actually convincing me that it might be. Like I never like commented on any stuff, but like at one point, like that's the thing. I'm telling you, man. I don't know if you saw the video that me and Jason Silbert did on Ethereum in explaining why it's an unlicensed, unregistered security, and like at what point am I gonna be like in serious, should I get a little worried for my safety? Because if, Ethereum and Vitalik go down for being an unlicensed, unregistered security, and all of the things that I've said to prove that case on my videos, it gets somehow referenced, or I get pulled as like a witness for the case of Ethereum being a security, like at what point was it did I assist in their, assessment of it being a security, right? Because if enough people scream to the SEC, you got to do something, they're going to do something. So the question is, should it be us that are screaming to the SEC that they need to do something, or should we wait for all of these bag holders to lose all their money and then blame Bitcoin because it's the only crypto left standing?
I'm putting a tweet up. I want everybody who's watching this on the live stream to weigh in. It's a vote. I want to know what the channel has to say. So everybody, I'm putting this in the channel here. Go ahead and vote on that and even retweet that. It won't let me do it. So guys, look at DeRose Tech and the topmost tweet. It won't let me paste it in. Go ahead and retweet.
Yeah, you have to be you have to be the moderator. You have to be the moderator to put a link in.
Yeah, go ahead and vote on that, guys. I want to hear what you have to say. All right, that's it. Move on.
All right, we're going to Jeffrey Jones. Go ahead.
Yeah, so real quick, I did paste the link in there because okay, looks like you did too, Thomas. Okay, so yeah, just real quick, lots to comment on, lots to say. So much has been said, by the panelists, really good stuff. I guess for me, I got a few things to say. So, first, Barry Silbert's brother, Alan, has always seemed to get it, right? He's always seemed to be on the side of Core and SegWit and things like that. So I'm not sure why those two can't get on the same page. But yeah, that is a big difference between Barry Silbert and Alan Silbert. I actually talked to Alan a bunch. I retweet a bunch of his stuff. So the big difference there. Definitely follow Alan Silbert on Twitter if you guys want some more information. But yeah, so this block size debate, it's been going on for a while now. It's been going on for crazy. Apparently, I really like what Chris said. I'm not going to repeat it, but it's pretty funny how he wants to come in and and just take over everything. And clearly, as the panelists have said, you cannot do that. You cannot have centralized power in a decentralized system. You cannot swing power the way that you want to, like for example, in a corporation or a company. You can't do that in the Bitcoin community. You can do that in Ethereum, right? We've seen that before with the DAO. You can do that in a bunch of these other coins and things like that, but you cannot do that in Bitcoin. And so this particular deal, was one of those backroom deals, and it's just the difference is, though, of course, from this and the Hong Kong agreement, though, was that in the Hong Kong agreement, the developers were actually in the same room. Like, there was actually some hope there for that. But with this, no developers were even consulted. It was just Barry talking to these corporations and companies and all these companies that are benefiting, probably behind doors from ASIC Boost and things like that. And Jihan paying off various people here and there. I mean, look at, they just invested in Purse, and a few criticisms from that. Of course, got me blocked by Andrew Lee, the CEO of Purse, and it's crazy. So I don't think it's going to work at all. We're definitely not going to hard fork. I mean, again, if they would have just consulted a single developer, they could have seen that it's freaking impossible to have a hard fork in 6 months. That is not going to happen. It's probably not even going to happen in the next year. Bitcoin, especially as the panelists have said, when we have a soft fork available. We have a soft fork ready that is ready to go with SegWit. Now, of course, everybody's going to point to this agreement and be like, SegWit, isn't this what everybody wanted? Isn't this the golden goose? This is the greatest thing, right? But no, because this freaking version of SegWit is ASIC Boost compatible and therefore perfectly in line, with Jihan Wu's plans for Bitmain and things like that. So we have to be careful and not let companies centralize too much in Bitcoin. The incentives and the game theory have been such that it's been doing a pretty good job. But with ASIC Boost and Bitmain running 70% of the the hashing power, their hardware running 70% of the hashing power, and with Ampli, I mean, we can see some cracks here. We can see some cracks, and what we can really do is eliminate these cracks with a soft fork with SegWit, with a SegWit soft fork. If we can do that, then we can crush ASIC Boost. We can make it back to an even playing field, and the game theory can continue working on with its incentives. This backdoor room deal was created by companies. It was not created by end users, and it's not going to happen. So what we're looking for right now, basically, the most likely scenario is a user-activated soft fork coming August 1st. This is coming. A lot of people are seeing this. It needs to get more attention. So definitely start talking about this because this is coming. There's a lot of people who have changed their handle on Twitter to raise some awareness for this user-activated soft fork. I have done so as well, just to try to remind people that, hey, this is coming August 1st. This is basically our best bet right now to get SegWit in. This is our best bet to get SegWit activated. And, we cannot let these miners be playing these games any longer.
Now that's what the people in the chat want us to talk about. User-activated soft fork. We talked about it, seems like months ago. We talk about scaling all the time. Jeffrey, what is the user-activated soft fork? What will happen if the miners vote?
Right. So, I mean, basically, there's all sorts of guesstimates, right? Nobody actually knows what's going to happen. But we do know that that the actual user-activated soft fork is coming, right? You can't change that. It's programmed in. There's 10% of the network at least signaling for it right now. So that's going to happen. It only takes one, right, to actually initiate the soft fork. So it's going to happen the way that the code is described. As far as the outcome, it's anybody's guess what's going to happen. All we can do is recommend to people that they do support this user-activated soft fork, namely the exchanges and wallets. Make sure that they're prepared. We only need one exchange, to be prepared, and user-activated soft fork will go. And so, there will be more coins, right? You'll have your regular coins and your user-activated soft fork coins. And so it's going to get a little hairy. That's why I said I'm calling for a price correction, when this happens. This is going to freak people out. This is going to scare people. But at the end of the day, this is Bitcoin. This is what goes on in Bitcoin. This is the craziness that you have signed up for to be in Bitcoin.
Krista Rose, same question. User-activated soft fork. How serious is this? Should I go get my hat? You're the hat man.
Yeah, I know. I don't have the hat. I mean, UASF has had a lot of support in the community. The problem I think I have with it is that the actual details, like it was said, are very murky in an applied sense. I haven't actually weighed in on it yet, and I probably should. So maybe I'll build a suspense on that. But in theory, at least, I'm attracted to it, and I understand what the allure is. It's a major deviation, I think, from anything we've really done prior in terms of these sorts of things. And now that Barry's weighed in on this whole thing, and the whole thing's murkier still, I don't have a good answer on that. That's as good as I can do.
Now, I always liked it before. I liked it as a political statement. Users should run things, and I don't really mean it. I mean it more like users should have some kind of vote. Like SegWit sounds pretty good to me as a user. So I would put on the hat and I would vote for that. But now it's starting to get like, we're actually going to do it. And we're going to do BIP 148. We're going to do BIP 149. And the developers are like, I'm not so sure with that one. I mean, is there any way we could get like a Greg Maxwell approved user-activated soft fork? What's the problem with that? I'll go to anybody. I
don't speak for Gregory Maxwell, but I mean, I can guess what his contentions are. I mean, the thing about Bitcoin is that it's like Gregory Maxwell is like the Federal Reserve chairman of Bitcoin. So like he's always going to be the most conservative person. That is his job. And
yeah, he's actually made conservative statements about UASF.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't exactly know what his specific intentions are, but like in terms of the actual applied sense, it's very hard for me to see this working in like a very like lockstep capacity. In part because I think that you don't have a way to. Some people's votes are like much more significant than others. Like Bitmain's vote is probably more important, seeing how much hash power they control, than others. And like it's easy to say that the users can activate this, and I get that, but it isn't that simple. I think there's a spectrum of risk. So like, I don't know. The thing, there's no roadmap here. That's the thing. Nobody told us how to do this. So everyone wants to guess, but the penalties are large for getting things wrong. And you know, some of these extraordinary changes, like it's just, it's hard. I don't know.
I think we have to talk about the underlying issues here. If there's a cartel, and they're not talking to us reasonably about the technical problems, don't we have to go to Greg Maxwell as Gandalf and sit down at his knee and say, we need your help. We need to do this thing. We need to force the cartel's hand and block this ASIC boost. We need to get rid of the ring. Can we do it? Gabriel D. Vine.
You know, I was surprised that BIP 148 chose a date that's so soon. I thought they would choose, you know, one day after the current BIP, you know, expired. If it doesn't get activated by X percentage of hash power, then the user activated soft fork will activate. I was a little surprised that they were like, forget it, we're just going to jump the gun on that. And you know, I think some, you know, private businesses and projects were kind of timing their development schedule based on that November date as kind of a hard deadline to be done and ready to go with you know, a 1.0 of their SegWit support. So I think that it seems a bit fast, but on the other hand, in my opinion, the true value of the UASF, just like the true value of any proposals to change the hashing algorithm and to fork away from the current, you know, SHA-256, is primarily as a threat against any, you know, usurpation of power in the system by mining cartels. So in my opinion, UASF primarily functions as a check, and it need not actually ever really activate in order to achieve that function.
Well, that's where I am with it. If it's a political thing, I'm for it. But if the users are actually running things, I'm not really for that. I think we should get a vote. We should get a say. But I don't know if we should get all of it. Let's go to the exit question. Force prediction. The Accords will activate. SegWit will be adopted at 80%, and Bitcoin will hard fork to 2 megabytes in 6 months. Chris DeRose, yes or no?
No.
Gabriel D. Vine.
Absolutely not. Never. 6 months is way too soon. They'll never be ready for it. It's completely ridiculous on its face, technically, and then socially, politically, it'll also never happen. But 6 months, never. There will not be a hard fork. I think SegWit will some way or other be activated before 2019.
Jeffrey Jones.
Bitcoin is not going to hard fork. It's really probably never ever going to hard fork again at this point, with the amount of momentum and stuff and money that's in it. So it's no, never going to happen.
But I love a good Deus Ex Machina, and I favor the Greeks even when they bring gifts. Let's add a bonus issue. We're about 2 hours into the show. Let's get things really dark. The ultimate application of Bitcoin beyond, as Chris has wisely said, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, the chat says, is assassination markets. Is this the new DApp? The ability to kill anyone? Is this what they're really advertising for? Is this the next token? Chris DeRose.
It would in fact be a example of a DApp that I would say offers a market efficiency. Whether it'll get funding or not, I would say absolutely not, because nobody in this fucking space wants to do disruptive applications because they're really disruptive.
A Ross Ulbricht, perhaps, of the dark death Silk Road. And again, I'm just getting all these horrible Twilight Zone science fiction things. You put a bounty on your friend because you're upset with him. He puts a bounty on you. They both go higher and higher, and pretty soon you're both dead. Gabriel D. Vine, are we going to kill all of everyone with assassination markets?
Assassination markets already exist in a centralized form. They're probably not that widely used yet, but they're certainly out there. I have never actually logged on to one or made an account, but as a journalist, I think that's probably an interesting project, and you should look into it if you are doing that kind of investigative journalism. And certainly Open Bazaar 2 is essentially an assassination market. So watch out.
And let's all remember the lesson of Kurt Vonnegut Jr.'s excellent book, Cat's Cradle. In Cat's Cradle, the Marines came to the scientists and they said, we have a problem. Everywhere we go in the world, there's all this mud, and we have to fight in the mud, and we don't like the mud. And the book also talked about how humans came from the mud. And then the scientists say, hey, we'll come up with Ice 9. Ice 9 will get rid of all your problems. It'll freeze everything. No more mud. But that was another problem because the humans were also mud. Jeffrey Jones, can we get rid of all the mud?
No, man. This is the fun part of a decentralized network is we all get to play in the mud all the time.
And everyone, if you like these dark thoughts and Twilight Zone ideas, you should check out Black Mirror on Netflix. Very dark show. This is not a paid plug, just a good show. We're running out of time. We're way over time. We're going to the exit question of the show. Krista Rose, are you ready with a prediction or a story of the week? Go ahead.
Oh man, I don't know if I mean, my time has been spent on this Jared Kushner thing lately. So I would say my prediction is that Jared Kushner sees no ramifications as a result of the Senate investigation committee currently investigating him. That would be my prediction. Is that a valid one? I don't know.
I'm going to go the exact opposite way, and I should say Jared Kushner should lawyer up. Lawyer up. Gabriel D. Vine.
My story of the week is the great decentralized exchange software BitSquare. They are gearing up for their version 0.5 release, where they're finally going to be crushing the last really a problem with their software, which was they didn't have dynamic fee calculation. So that caused them a lot of issues during times like now where the fees go up. But once they have dynamic fee calculation, I think it's going to be a really great alternative for everybody. Even though it's still got limited liquidity now, I think that will change. So that's pretty exciting time. Still usable software now, a little bit glitchy here and there, but highly recommend anybody looking for alternate on and off ramps from Bitcoin and back and forth to fiat, as well as altcoin trades back and forth.
Gotta have those dynamic fees. Jeffrey Jones.
Sorry, what was the question?
Story of the week or
prediction.
We've made it to the end.
Story of the week. Oh man, see, I guess I've been following consensus. I've been following all these things. I guess I don't really have a story of the week other than this freaking crazy ICO madness. The week is finally over. We can all take a break. Bitcoin is now correcting. It's time for everybody to take a break and enjoy the weekend.
Enjoy your weekend. Yeah, it's a good story of the week. Reminds me of someone else who used to say something like that. Said the Deke Jackson from the fucking news. He'd always say, what do you say? The planet is fucked and have a nice weekend. But I just wanted to put a thank you out there to the community. I had some great tweets this week. Andreas tweeted out my Patreon and people started signing up for my Patreon. So if you'd like to do that, you can do that at patreon.com/madbitcoins. Also at madbitcoins.com if you want to donate Bitcoin. If you like the shows that we do here, you want to put a donate out there, it's totally voluntary. And I'd just like to thank the support of the community. We had 480 live viewers today. That's amazing. Must be some kind of record. We're getting close to 500. And of course, subscribe to the World Crypto Network and like this video. Check out Krista Rose's videos at Bitcoin Uncensored. We got Jeffrey Jones, the Bitcoin News Show, and Gabriel D. Vine's even going to make some more future rant shows here on the World Crypto Network. So stay tuned to this channel. And thanks for joining us at home in the chat. We're going to go scroll through what we were able to save and see what you said. So thanks so much for giving us a like and a comment and a share, all those things. But it's been over 2 hours at least, and we're running out of time. Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.